welcome to our latest episode of the MES tool release highlights for summer 2022. My name is Jan and I have Kai here with me today from the MXAM team. Hello, Kai.
Hello and welcome.
So we are going to look into the latest release of the MES model examiner MXAM, and the version of the latest release is the 8.1. We have quite a number of highlights we would like to show you today. And the first one is with regard to an automated return of unused licenses. Kai, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this function.
Yeah, so I think most of you know that in a license server-based setup, so then a license is pulled when an MXAM session is started. But maybe, yeah, the MXAM session is still open, but nothing's happened. So this is then in idle state. And then now with the latest version, if this idle state is on for more than 6 hours, this license is returned to the server. And so this is not blocked for other users, so other users can use this license. And yeah, this really enables a more effective license management in this case.
So because we had some, or sometimes there was customer feedback that maybe somebody forgot to turn off his or her computer, or for whatever reason, and MXAM was in idle mode, and then it was difficult to retrieve the licenses. And now that's an automated function, basically after the 6 hours idle time, right?
So that you have less blocked license.
Right. Well, that sounds like a nice feature for our users. And that brings me to the next highlight, and that is that we are now supporting the Linux operating system with MXAM. Kai, maybe you can explain a little bit more why that is so interesting for our users, and what was the purpose behind supporting Linux operating systems?
Yes, first of all, it's great that with MXAM 8.1 we have now the first release that can be run on Linux operating system. And the main background was that customers wanted to use cloud setups, and this in the field is typically done and achieved with Linux-based Dockers. And this was really the reason why customers wanted to have this feature.
And speaking of cloud setups, maybe you can also show us a small example on how a typical cloud setup, in this case for Linux, could look like when our users are using MXAM in their tool chains. Yeah,
great. So we can here show a typical use case with MXAM and the cloud. So in the cloud, we have one cloud node with a Linux-based Docker node here. And then when we have the typical modeler here that commits these changes to the model within a Git repo, can also be here in the cloud. Then the Git repo triggers a Jenkins. And now this Jenkins requests a container deployment, and this container can be downloaded then from a container repo where we have, or when we can have different combinations of operating system and releases here. And now this Linux and MXAM combination is downloaded into the cloud node here, and he can check out now the model change from the repo and can run the analysis. And after the analysis is done, we can have the results in the Jenkins, and then the Jenkins can as well undeploy the container, so to conclude the analysis ran here in the cloud. So this is one example of a typical workflow with MXAM in a cloud.
Maybe it's worth to mention that we just broadcasted a webinar on this topic, which is available on our website. So if any of you is interested in this topic in more detail, please also have a look at the webinar. And last but not least, it's also about the content that comes with the MES Model Examiner, so to say the guidelines, of course. And we have some news for guidelines that are for the Targetlink code generator, 6 in number. And Kai, maybe you can give us some more insight into these guidelines that have now been released.
Yes, for sure. So since in the last 2 releases, we mainly increased the coverage of MAP guidelines, our focus now in this release was mainly on guidelines from DSpace Targetlink regarding optimized code generation, and especially some of these guidelines help to achieve MISRA C compliance then in the generated code. So like for instance, the check we see here at first with the topic on unique identifier names. So with the general theme of really using coding standards and unique names. So this check analyzes all these identifier like variable names, type definitions, and function names within Targetlink blocks and Targetlink data dictionaries, and then returns a fail finding if there's no unique identifier, and this also leads them to MISRA C compliance in the generated code. Then we have one check also in relation to MISRA C compliance. This is the bit shift code generation settings, and this maybe a little bit detailed here, but it leads to MISRA C compliance of rule 11.4 in regards of conversions from integer to pointers and vice versa. And this is easily done or can be easily achieved in the generated code when we have this option of utilize bitwise shift operation set to a specific value. And this check can easily check this, and as well as also automatically repair this option if it's not set correctly. Then 2 other related checks, one regarding external variables and external functions. And these will also achieve MISRA compliance regarding the rule of 8.5 in regards of that external objects should only be declared once in the code, and as well as if they're only in one file. And both checks check if all settings in Targetlink are correct. Here in this case, to have only these declaration once and in one file, then also in the generated code. Because if this is not the case, then it can be that Targetlink generates more and multiple declarations of this function or variable. So then maybe last but not least, also one check more in the theme of preventing over and underflows. We have here one check that analyzes lookup table blocks of Targetlink, and it checks if all ranges of the input of the lookup tables are contained in the ranges defined in the access of these lookup tables.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you for the overview here. I think it's also worth to mention that DSpace provides information as a supplier of the Targetlink code generator that to show you how to be MISRA C compliant, for example, or to optimize the code generation in general. And this is also where these guidelines are aimed at. So thank you very much for joining me today. That was it for the highlights for this time. You can download or request the latest version of MXAM via our website or via the link in the tool update newsletter. If you did not receive the tool update newsletter, of course, you're most welcome to put yourself on the mailing list or request that you are put on the mailing list. And yeah, Kai, thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully see you next time for more highlights for the next release of MXAM.
Yeah, thank you for hosting, and goodbye.
Goodbye.